I'll do the roll call and whatever for now. But also in the drive, there is the attendance.
Class.
For the year ends, I need to revise the voting because sitting right here as everyone
And then wait
else.
for after this.
I left at like 11:45.
So see how has those Roman numerals. So I have to go back to like all the other agendas and figure out like which ones. Like this is when Haley was in. This is all the other stuff. I really haven't done that. So I'm not going to test you with that. So I'll fix that for the year ends, and then it'll be all organized.
Yeah.
I said you back for my English, which is a big chance.
No, just keep her.
You can switch next time.
She needs to talk this way.
And then I'll do the voting on
I'm
this sheet.
about
I need
to.
to make a new sheet. I'll probably need Michaela's help making a new
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Also, another. So I know you used to handwrite stuff. So write when you take over. I don't know if you want to write as people. So I don't know if you want to write as people.
Meeting to order, roll call.
1 second, please.
If he calls someone who is not a member of the Senate, and you know it's like your alternate, because I know that was an issue before, please raise your hand, just so he knows to edit the roll call.
Senator Balschmider,
Here.
Senator Bolio,
Here.
Senator Barazzi,
Absent, excused.
Senator Bouchard,
Here.
Senator Denials,
Here.
Senator Farrell,
Here.
Senator Gagnon,
Here.
Senator Godek,
Here.
Senator Holman,
Here.
Senator Cantos.
Here.
You're not Senator Kilday. Secretary Kilday.
Here.
Senator Lemieux,
Here.
Senator Lipscomb,
Here.
Senator Lovell. What's that?
That's my alternate.
Oh, okay. Senator Lucier,
Here.
Senator Mazzaferro,
Here.
Senator Mello, Senator Miller,
Here.
Senator Oros,
Here.
Senator Scorpa,
Here.
Senator Shamorad, Senator Silver,
Here.
Senator Stearns,
Here.
Senator Thurston,
Here.
Senator Welch,
Here.
Chairperson Amaya.
Here.
The other ones. What's the rest of it? Secretary Bronson, not here. Chairperson oh my God, sorry. What did you just say? Piacenza.
Here.
Chairperson Greenwood,
Here.
Vice President Cloutier.
Here.
Present. All
Sorry
right,
about that,
we
guys.
have, yes,
I am not on the attendance.
My bad.
No, you're all good.
he will add you. Thank you. We have a lot to get to today. To start the meeting, the minutes are not done yet for transitions because we are still transitioning and getting together a full e-board, so there will be no minutes approved today. We're gonna start with the executive board appointments, then special committee appointments, then student leadership stipends. For the student leadership stipends conversation, you are allowed to have your laptops out. I sent you all something to the group email. So when we get to that, feel free to take it out so that you can look. But we're gonna start, and at this time, I move for the Student Senate to accept my nomination of Rebecca Kilday to be the Secretary of the Student Senate for the 2025-2026 term.
Second.
During a second, I will allocate 3 minutes to this conversation. Senator Kilday has done a fantastic job as a senator and advocate for the student body over the last term. And I'm very, very excited to put this nomination before you all today. I've had such great experiences working with her both in Senate and as a fellow peer advisor. I know she puts all of her hard work and dedication into things that she finds passion in. I was very happy to hear that she found passion here. I think that she stands out as a student representative and as for a long time, sole representative of her class. She stepped in when we really needed her, when our numbers were dwindling before the fall elections. And I appreciate her so much for that, for stepping into that role. And I appreciate her now for stepping up into secretary. And I really do hope that you guys support and will accept this nomination. The floor is open for questions or comments. Yes.
I would like to say that I have known Rebecca Kilday for quite a while now, and she is an absolutely outstanding member of this community, of this Senate, and we'll only continue to see her do wonderful things. And I know she will serve this Senate as secretary absolutely beautifully.
Thank you. Any other? Yes.
I also want to say that I think Becca's going to do incredible in this job. I think you have a lot of experience. She used to write the minutes for her home, back home, and I really do think that her experience, coupled with the fact that she's such an excellent leader, is going to work her.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, we're going to do a roll call vote. Again, if there is an issue with the roll call, please just raise your hand at the end for this one, though.
Senator Ballschmider,
Yes.
Senator Bolio,
Yes.
Senator Barazzi, Senator Bouchard,
Yes.
Senator Denials,
Yes.
Senator Farrell,
Yes.
Senator Gagnon,
Yes.
Senator Godek,
Yes.
Senator Holman,
Yes.
Senator Cantos,
Yes.
Senator Lemieux,
Yes.
Senator Lipscomb,
Yes.
Senator Lovell, Senator Lucier,
Yes.
Senator Mazzaferro,
Yes.
Senator Mello,
Yes.
Senator Miller,
Yes.
Senator McKiernan,
Yes.
Senator Oros,
Yes.
Senator Scorpa,
Yes.
Senator Shamorad, Senator Silver,
Yes.
Senator Stearns,
Yes.
Senator Thurston,
Yes.
Senator Welch,
Yes.
Chairperson Piacenza,
Yes.
Chairperson Greenwood.
Yes.
They can't vote.
Sorry. Vice President Cloutier,
Yes.
Vice President Kaufman, or President Kaufman.
Yes.
Take it away.
$22,000.
With 22 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstentions, the motion passes. Really quickly, because I think you were skipped, right?
Yeah.
Senator Amsden, and then remove Senator Gagnon, and then Senator Lovell.
Gotcha.
He has separate spreadsheets for like voting and attendance.
Yeah,
and
I'm
stuff like that,
sorry,
So that's
I'm
why
all
it's
out of
a
whack,
little-
guys.
All out of whack. But Secretary Kilday, please go ahead and stand. Yeah, we can do it. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Rebecca Kilday,
Do solemnly swear that I will,
do solemnly swear that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
fulfill the duties and responsibilities of the Student Senate Secretary,
fulfill the duties and responsibilities of the Student Senate Secretary,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
uphold and follow
uphold and follow
the policies of the Student Senate and the Student Senate Constitution.
the policies of the Student Senate and the Student Senate Constitution.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to now Secretary Kilday. Next, moving into the special committee appointments. These are reappointments. These are not executive board positions. So that's why I did not send out like a formal letter about them. Essentially, anyone in these roles are basically just doing a little extra work and reporting on issues that should be addressed, but might not necessarily fall under the purview of certain senators. So I'm going to start with the Health and Well-Being Committee chairperson. So at this time, I move for Senate to accept my nomination of Senator Bolio to be the 2025-2026 Health and Wellbeing Committee Chairperson.
Second.
All right, I'm going to allocate 2 minutes to this conversation. Are there any questions or comments about that? Okay, seeing none. Since these are not executive positions, I'm just going to voice vote them. And so all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining?
Aye.
1 abstention. The motion passes. And then, or we have to do your oath. So we're going to do that over there too. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Samantha Bolio,
Do solemnly swear that I will,
do solemnly swear that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
fulfill the duties and responsibilities of Student Senate Health and Wellbeing Chairperson. Fulfill the duties and responsibilities of
fulfill the duties and responsibilities of
Student Senate Health and Wellbeing Chairperson,
Student Senate Health and Wellbeing Chairperson,
and will, to the best of my
and
ability,
will to the best of my ability
uphold and follow
uphold and follow
the policies of the Student Senate and the Student Senate Constitution.
the policies of the Student Senate and Student Senate Constitution.
Congratulations. Now that we have a chairperson, at this time, I make the motion to reactivate the Student Senate's Health and Wellbeing Committee for the 2025-2026 term.
Second.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments about that? No, or yes?
Does that mean she's gonna have her own, like her own members in her committee as well?
Yes, it's not a standing committee, so senators will not be assigned to it. Anything that you do is voluntary. So if you are interested, reach out to Senator Bolio and she will help work with you on that. Any other questions or comments about that? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Next, we are going to move into the Food Committee Chairperson. So at this time, I move for the Senate to accept my nomination of Emily Day to be the Student Senate's Food Committee Chairperson for the 2025-2026 term.
Second.
Okay, hearing a second. Are there any questions, comments, or statements about that? It's the same thing, another reappointment. Chairperson Day in this role has done a phenomenal job working with Mark Marson and Aramark and just connecting with him and addressing issues both for just the general student body, but also the same issues that our athletic reps have been talking about too. So she really has gone above and beyond in that role. And I enjoyed reading your rollover report. So I've been very pleased with everything that you've been doing. Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, we will move into a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Emily Day,
Do solemnly swear that I will,
do solemnly swear that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
fulfill the duties and responsibilities of
fulfill the duties and responsibilities of
Food Committee Chairperson for the Student Senate,
Food Committee Chairperson of the Student Senate,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
uphold and follow
uphold and follow
the policies of the Student Senate and the Student Senate Constitution.
And then you just in between, yeah. So everything
Congratulations.
heading and subheading. And that's
Now that we have a Food Committee Chairperson, at this time, I make the motion to reactivate the Student Senate's Food Committee for the 2025-2026 term.
Second.
Okay, hearing a second, are there any questions or comments about that? It's the same policy for health and well-being. Anything people can join voluntarily. It's also open to people who are not senators too. So if you are interested in helping out with that, please reach out to them. Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? The motion passes. Next, we are going to move into the student leadership stipend votes. So at this time, you guys are allowed to take out your laptops or phones to look at this. I just sent you all an email earlier this morning with more information about it. I'm going to start by by moving for Student Senate to accept the executive stipend proposal for the 2025-2026 term.
Second.
Okay, hearing a second, I'm going to allocate 3 minutes to this conversation. This was already proposed at the end of last term for payment for those executives that were leaving. We're approaching these two stipends conversations a little differently because the Senate leaders are public leaders for the student body. So I put in the amounts that we are requesting that they get paid. And if there is any change to that whatsoever, we will inform you all because you all deserve to know that and the student body does deserve to know that. The CAB ones will not have the amount. And in my email to you all, there's more specific reasons for that. And we'll go over that in a second. But again, I just went over and like line by line listed out like their duties, responsibilities, powers, what their expectations are on these roles, about how many hours per week that each one puts into their roles. So if you have any questions or comments about that, now would be a good time to ask. But if you guys accept this proposal, it goes to Student Life for a final approval. And then anything after that is just communicated back out to us. Yes.
So the stipend amount, say for tier 1, 2000, is that every week, month, semester? term?
That's up to Student Life to figure out how exactly that's paid out. So it is for the whole term though. This is their payment for the whole term. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah,
I
so,
think
and then this
clarity
also
on that.
has,
Ideally,
so
we
you
would
can
like to
find
set it up so that way
like
it'd be on a regular
Use on
basis.
it,
That
like I always mark it down,
because some of
like
these
on the
still mature for any reason or
agenda.
transfers or whatever, that the work that they did isn't unnecessarily
I just-
paid for in that way, so we are gonna try to set up the
They
system.
were
That
last
being
with
said, it
the
will
meetings
just
and all
depend
that,
on,
so.
what system we have available to work and actually pay students through.
Yes.
Because it's like spread over the whole term, it's like, for example, since campus relations hasn't been appointed, would they be paid out for the amount of the term? Of course, what they would.
It's a prorated, so technically it would be a percentage. If it's like 2% difference, it might not be. Again, that's up to the discretion of Student Life and how exactly that is paid out. But if for serving 100% of the term, that's the amount. So yeah, Senator Bouchard.
I don't know if I'm new to this, like just, is each executive position paid or is it just the secretary as of right now?
It's just the appointed one. So myself and Vice President Cloutier are not paid. And none of the, if they had a voting right in the past too, they weren't paid. So legislative chair up until last year was not paid and campus relations chair was not paid because they actively voted. And then we switched that when we revamped our constitution so that they were appointed and essentially they're hired workers of the Senate. For those of you who are new, they are allowed to, at this time, I make the motion to add another 2 minutes to this discussion.
Second.
Okay. I'm gonna voice vote that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. So where was I? The historically legislative chair and CR were not paid. We switched last term when we revamped our constitution. Since they are paid members of the Senate, they have powers and stuff that they can do outside of Senate. It's just that they have to report on everything that they're doing to us every Tuesday. So if it has to do with their powers and duties, you all have the authority to motion to direct them to do certain things and tell them to stop doing other things too. So if, for example, Treasurer Piacenza comes in and says that she's put a budget freeze on an organization, then you all as senators have the authority to come in here on that Tuesday when she reports that to say, you need to unfreeze that budget. I make the motion to unfreeze that budget. Does that make sense? Okay, so again, they have powers and duties. They can execute on things outside of Senate. They have a huge workload. So I think this is fair compensation for what they're doing and a huge improvement to what's been historically done. Any other questions or comments about that? Okay, we are going to move into a voice vote for this also. So all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? The motion passes. Next, we are going to talk about the Campus Activity Board stipend, and those are also attached to that same email. In my email to you all, after discussing it with Director Grimm, I think it is a good idea to basically allow student life to be an unbiased committee that has no say, or that has say over the exact amount that they're paid, especially given the history of Senate's relationship with CAB and also the student body's relationship with CAB. I think going forward, I'm very, very excited for what CAB has in store. They're taking huge strides to make sure that next year is going to be one of the best years event-wise. I could not be more excited to share that with you all today. I'm sure when they come and talk about their budget, you all will be excited also. But again, just given the history between our two groups, given the history between the student body's perception of CAB recently, I don't want that perception to affect how much they're getting paid. And to be honest, I don't trust senators going forward to just have the authority to just say, we're cutting their pay in the middle of the school year because I didn't like that event, or I don't like CAB. That's unfair to them. They should have a clear guaranteed payment for their positions, especially if they're putting in work, regardless of how an individual person feels about it. Does that make sense? Are there any questions or comments about that? I do want to go over really quickly all of the positions that you would be approving with the stipend proposal. So it is a total of, or if you want to go over it, I can hand the floor off to you.
So for those of you who don't know, my name is Emily, obviously, and I am going to be the president of CAB for the 25-26 term. So for executive board positions that we are looking to have as paid positions, it would be all of our executive boards. So that's president, vice president, director of finance, marketing, secretary, special events chair, spirit and tradition chair, on the road chair, and golden hours chair. And the idea with it is to be more of like a three-tiered system where depending on, similar to how Senate's was set up, similar to like the amount of the workload for each of the tiers would hypothetically have a different amount.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? You guys could also ask CAB President Emily Day. I know former Senator Bissonette is also here as their treasurer, so yeah.
I know we can't get like specific numbers, but like, so there's obviously a lot of chairs and a lot of positions. Is that going to affect like the amount of payment that each is receiving?
So that's to be determined obviously by student life. We don't know exactly what those amounts are going to look like. The goal is to have at least all of our e-board members who are all putting in a lot of work to make these great events, have them all be paid. It's just obviously we're not sure at the moment what those.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Generally speaking, this is like, you have more executive board than a lot of the other clubs on campus. Is this executive board like consistently filled every?
So based off of, I don't want to speak to as past years, we've been doing some big revisions to CAB in general, like constitutionally. But as of this year, all positions will be filled by Friday. And I am hopeful that moving forward, we'll be able to fill all positions.
I will take one more question. Yeah.
I like the idea of how you said like it's like a tiered system where each position is really divvied up with how much they essentially make based on how much they work. I just had a question with like the additional I'm assuming this is an additional allocation. Is this going to be something taken out of their activities funds, or is this something that we're putting on top of that?
It's going to be built into their, or I'll hand the floor to you.
Okay, I've actively been working on our budget request for some time, and with the numbers that we are requesting both for our entire budget and for stipends, we're looking at an overall stipend amount of less than 5% of our overall budget ask.
So it will be built into their budget. It's just that like their budget might change a little bit based off of the decision, and that would be reported out by Treasurer Piacenza if that's the case, just so you're all aware. Okay. Seeing it, no more questions or comments. Just really quickly, I think both Senate stipends and CAB stipends are a huge step in the right direction. Historically, if you look at data about like what students were doing in college and different time periods, essentially, or like different decades, there is a generational difference between our generation and previous generations that people do need to understand. Previous generations, things that they were doing outside of their coursework were club sports, activities, stuff like that. Our generation, one of the biggest things that we do that is different than other generations is work. So if we are doing work on this campus, I believe that we deserve to get paid. There is a huge cost of living difference, and the amount of work that all of these positions do deserve some type of compensation. And I would even argue you can make an argument for them to get even more. But I think with all factors considered, the fact that they are students, the fact that we're trying to balance priorities, the fact that it is student leadership positions and not all student leadership positions are paid, I think this is a fair and just compensation for them, and a just reason for CAP to be compensated as well. So with that being said, I'm going to move to a voice vote for the CAB stipends. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining?
Aye.
One abstention, the motion passes. Something that we are going to trial, I would like to trial this year. I know I don't mean to throw a lot more work on our secretary and our secretary trainer over there, but in the announcement section of the group meet, and if you're not in the group meet yet, join it. We are going to post polls for our voice votes so that they can be accurately recorded in the minutes. If you do not vote in that and you were at this meeting, we are switching you from present to absent. So do not mute the announcements group me and make sure you are reporting that to our secretaries. Is that clear? Yes.
Or next week, Tuesday?
It will start going into next Tuesday. So we'll post it. And if you don't have your votes in by the time the minutes are due on Sunday, or the minutes are still a work in progress right now because of transition, so we'll extend it a little bit, but I'm going to try and communicate with you guys. They'll communicate with you guys if votes are missing, but please just make sure they're in on time.
So today's votes won't be counted in that group.
It will be counted in the group, like those will be posted.
Oh, okay.
The minutes won't be done for next Tuesday. There's no guarantee for that just because of the transition. So you will have extra time for these first few to get your votes in while we're working on that. Does that make sense? Do you have a question? Okay. So now we are going to move into a campus culture discussion. I'm going to allocate 10 minutes to this discussion. I wanted to just open the floor to all of you to have a discussion about the culture on our campus, and specifically with how things are operated here, how student-centered proposals are done, and just how some of our higher-ranking members of the institution interact with us as students. I've noticed that when I look at other colleges and universities, we have it backwards, and that's something that I tried to address in my speech during transitions. Student-centered initiatives start with the students at other places, period. You look at other places around us, you look at our competing colleges and institutions, they start with the students. They go to their student governments, they go to their RAs, they go to their PAs. I did say like they should start here. Sometimes this might not be the best place, but they still should start with the students. And on top of that, there's a lot of other issues and stuff like that that I think should be addressed just about our culture in general and the lack of engagement. So I want to open the floor to all of you. I want to know your thoughts on that because I think it's important for us to have an open discussion about this. So yes.
That my role might be one of the best examples of this since it is so new. A lot of deans don't know what to do. So I wanted to share that this year, or last term, sorry, I had a lot of difficulty with reaching administrative members because they just didn't know what I did on campus and didn't believe that I was necessary. So I think the biggest thing going forward with administration would be to say like, this is why we exist. You need to talk to us and consider our point of view. And we are trying to work with you like actively. So just further education and kind of like an easier way to communicate where they have to talk to us and respect what we're bringing forward to them.
Yeah, Senator Lucier.
The big thing I want to say is I think we need like a deeper connection with Res Life, like as a student body and Senate as a whole. It's very rare for us to get into contact with Res Life. As a resident representative, I've had to struggle with that and trying to get meetings. I've met with them once, and now the RDs tend to just ignore my emails. So that sort of deeper connection, I think, is really important.
Senator Bouchard, or Senator Miller first, and then Senator Bouchard.
Speaking to what you said, I think it's very important that we also find new ways to attach Senate's name to the things that we do. For example, when I'm talking to professors and I'm like, yeah, I'm a senator. What's that? You know what I mean? And then when I bring up the things that Senate has done, they're like, oh, you guys did that. So I think not only for faculty to know more about who we are and see that, hey, we are the ones who pushed for this, it would also let the student body, feel more connected to us and recognize that we actually are doing things.
Senator Bouchard.
I think more on like an optimistic note, I think that having the issue with FAIR and us as senators voting on that and sending out, it was publicized as we, like, the school listened to our voice as students, which I think was kind of like a refreshing thing to know as students. I know a lot of people on campus were happy with that, and we did get the recognition as Senate, like on the news and around campus for taking the initiative to do that. So I think, although like there are things like, again, reaching out to administration is really tough and stuff like that, but slowly, like, Student Senate is doing something. Like, we are taking steps, and I think that is just, we're not at our end goal yet, but I feel like if we keep continuing on the path, like with these little things, like we can make small improvements. Like the bear thing was the first thing that was really successful with like listening to the student voice and stuff like that. So I just feel like continuing to do our part in like small ways, like we can get like stuff like that.
Something that I want to add to that, and just so all of you are aware, because there are very few of us that have been on Senate for as long as myself and Vice President Cloutier. This has been something that like is specifically like reaching out and like decisions and stuff like that. This has been going on for 3 terms. This is the 3rd term where we're talking about it. When President Alvord came in 2 terms ago, that was his initiative. He wanted to have a working relationship with administration. And I know the way he approached working with them was the same way I approached working with them. Every single email, every single conversation always ended with, we're here for you too. Come to us. We want to hear you. And they have failed to do that. I'm going to be 100% honest. They have failed to do that. I'm sick of it. We deserve, specifically with what Senator Scorpa said, it's not just administrators too. It's also higher ranking members of the campus community. I feel bad that you were brushed off. That's unacceptable. You are an elected student leader. That is absolutely unacceptable. You deserve more respect than that. And that's something that I want to put towards all of you. I'm going to fight to make sure that you guys get the respect you deserve. Because as I said, it takes guts for you guys to go out there to the student body and ask for their support. Contested election or not, you guys had 25 signatures supporting you to be in these seats, to affect change. That means something. That 100% means something. And to look at other colleges and universities and see that their student leaders get a better student experience and better experience working with their administrators and higher ranking members of their campus community is sickening. It's absolutely sickening. Yeah, Senator Farrell.
One thing I'll say, both my experience as an individual student and as a student leader with different clubs and organizations, Senator Lucier talked about it himself, is that it is very hard to get in contact with different offices and administrations. In my own experience as a student, I've tried reaching out to Residence Life or the administration office, such as like the College of Engineering for academic issues, and I rarely hear back, or may not hear back at all. Similarly, as a member of the club, reaching out to different offices, such as student involvement. This year, the City Players had a lot of work with admissions, trying to plan ground dates, and we get very low communication. And then when we get that communication, we are very seldomly heard on our issues. So it's not just a matter of getting in the door, but making sure that once we are in, we are properly being listened to and heard out on our issues and not being brushed off because we're a student.
Yes, Vice President Cloutier.
So I know I'm not the CAR chair anymore, but I have heard a lot of grievances, and they've also been submitted to the Student Senate Feedback and Concerns Form regarding the involvement that President Johnson has on this campus as far as students go. We observed this year that he did not speak at Accepted Students Day. I've had multiple clubs tell me that he was invited to their events and did not attend, and also did not send any sort of email back or apology for not being able to make it. Office hours have been pushed back. I'm sure that at some point you'll see him on campus, but it's definitely not as frequently as we used to see him. And I think that Greg Matthews has done an excellent job at sending out weekly newsletters and kind of building that trust with students and being available for them. But I think that we need to see that from more than just Greg.
I'm going to hand the floor to the secretary of the class of 27, Samantha Brady, because I know she has remarks.
Hi, I'm Samantha Brady, and so although I'm not on Senate, I did just want to come here today to speak on that as a concerned student of our student body, and I did write a little something that I wanted to share. As we all know, Western New England University is a campus built on community, acceptance, and support for one another, and today my concern is centered on President Johnson's presence on our campus. To me, the president of a university is regarded as the highest supporter of a university's students and wants to ensure that students are receiving the finest education, are making memories, being accepted, and are finding themselves in their home away from home. This job is one that cannot be done when lacking a presence on its university's grounds and in its students' lives. Over the past couple of months, 3 major moments to highlight of President Johnson's absence include Accepted Students Day, the Senate transition ceremony, and the conversation regarding Bear the Comfort Dog's leave. To accepted students as well as their families, not being present for a day that recognizes their achievements and futures is disrespectful and shows a lack of commitment to the students President Johnson works to inspire. From a parental perspective, if the president at a university cannot be present for a major day such as this in their child's life, it is hard to put all your trust in an organization that is responsible for your child's education, safety, and overall happiness. Furthermore, the Student Senate transition ceremony recognizes the hard work and commitment the Student Senate has put in over the past term. Being the voice of the students, the Student Senate influences student life every day, especially when working behind the scenes, which often goes unrecognized. The president of the university should show the utmost support to this organization and be grateful for all its work done on our campus. Many individuals in student life and students, professors took time out of their day to show their support and appreciation for all this Senate has done over their past term, and it is disheartening to see that President Johnson could not join them. On such a controversial issue as the one considering the matter of Bear the Comfort Dog's leave, President Johnson should be at the center of the conversation, listening to both sides and considering the students' opinions. However, Greg Matthews was at the center of this conversation, playing a major role in calming the stress and anger within the student body. In this situation, President Johnson did not even send out an email making everyone aware of the solution to this issue, wishing Bear a happy retirement. To many students, this situation particularly was at the heart of the university concern. I hope that moving forward, President Johnson can not only be present for events such as this, but club-run events, building connections with our students. Thank you for listening to me speak today, and I hope that through the voice of the Student Senate, an improvement can be made.
Thank you for sharing that. Again, this speaks to a bigger issue on our campus. This is a common thing. It's not just President Johnson, but obviously he's the biggest culprit. He should be there. The fact that I was the only president at Accepted Students Day is unacceptable. They deserve to hear from him. If it was like a one thing, that's, he misses if something important is going on. That's one thing. It happens sometimes. Sometimes you can't be at everything you need to be at. He's not here. Where's President Johnson? That's the question. Where is our president? We have not seen him. I've seen him pass by the Senate like once this term, go down that elevator. That's the most I've seen him. I want to give someone who hasn't had a chance yet to speak. Senator Lumia.
Senator Silver have contacted our people in the College of Engineering Dean Suite, and we have been ignored a couple times. So by the time it comes to our monthly reports, we just have a hard time writing and coming up with things for our college. And we've sent out numerous emails to different clubs in the College of Engineering. And whenever we do, we get a response from 1 or 2 clubs, and there are around like probably 10 of them, and they just consistently ignore them. There's multiple clubs we haven't heard a single word from all year. And it's very frustrating when we're trying to help and they just completely ignore us.
Yeah. I will say the student side of that we can't really talk too much to. I know like there are some that are active. We're working with Senate like Baja, but I'm sure other ones are not as active or might just be busy and they're smaller. So it might be a little harder for them to reach out to. But also to your point about your deans, to our college reps, You are their college reps. That's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. You represent their college. They should take pride in having you there. They should take pride in talking to you. That absolutely unacceptable. Senator Godek.
Going back to the point that you made with President Johnson, I know myself, President Kaufman, Senator Farrell, Senator Scorpa, Senator Amson, and I know there's other numerous rising seniors in the room. We saw him more our first year here. Now I barely see him. There's every now and again where I will see him occasionally. Other than that, he's not being seen. I did not see him at a single open house event this spring semester alone, which makes me feel as a student ambassador like he doesn't give any like instance of the new students that we're bringing in. And we just had our biggest like accepted class coming in. Like the amount of students we accepted was more in December than we accepted last year as a whole. So the fact that President Johnson isn't being visible on this campus right now, coming from someone who's a student ambassador and talks about the school out with prospective students, it is very much so tough to talk about just because we don't have that clear face other than Greg and the leaders in student involvement.
And I will say, thank God for Greg. Thank God someone stepped up and he listened to us when we said someone needs to step in and start saying stuff. And to that point too, and further speaking about Greg, where was the notification about Greg becoming the vice president of student life? That never happened. There was no communication about Christine leaving. That never happened. Michael Pedro. Yes.
I just wanted to say that, like, on top of President Johnson's not being active on campus, I think that the majority of the student body has no idea what President Johnson even does. They only know this big, like, budget number that is like his salary that's floating around. They're like, what is he doing? Like, why is all of our money going towards someone we don't even know what they're doing on campus? And that's not fair to us either.
Secretary Emeritus.
Something I wanted to bring up was I actually saw this email I think this morning. He has the once a month office hours that's literally 1 hour long, and you get 5 minutes with him, and every single time he schedules one, it gets changed to a week later, and then a week later, and a week later, and they never actually have it. So I also wanted to bring that up.
I'm gonna just take a couple more statements because we have to talk about the PA change. So I'm gonna start with Senator Bolio.
To add on to that, not only has the lack of presence from President Johnson been noticeable, I've heard jokes about it from several people being like, oh, his office hours, they're changing again. Oh, we're never gonna see him. I've heard so many comments like that. And coming from also a student leader as a senator and as an executive board member of a club, generally speaking to administration has been so incredibly difficult, either because of timeliness or just lack of transparency with when and where things are happening. Being able to effectively communicate has been almost impossible.
I'm not even part of the Senate, but my freshman year, like Senator Godek said, we saw President Johnson a lot, about once a week at most. And now, last time I saw President Johnson in the flesh was back in December, or November-ish, when we went to get the letter from the yearbook. Now, accepted student states, when he canceled or when he didn't show up, did he send an email saying what they wanted to do?
Well, it's playing behind the scenes, so I don't know for sure, but I don't know how that happened, but yeah.
It still is unacceptable. Show the students, especially the biggest one of the year.
Yes. I'm going to ask that if anyone has anything else to add, it is something new. Okay. I'm going to start with Emily Day.
The one comment I have about specifically the office hours, and I had heard this when I first joined as college business rep, that there were a couple office hours he posted where he was not actually present. And instead it was Robin, who is his assistant, I believe. And so he wasn't physically at his office hour. And that was last year. I had heard at least one office hour of his that he wasn't.
Senator Farrell.
I want to provide some transparency just how bad the issue with President Johnson's presence at admissions events has been, because it gives some highlights to everyone else. President Johnson, I don't think, has been to a single admissions event this year, an open house. Otherwise, I have not seen him personally once.
He was 24, yes, 25 now.
Yep. So when he's not there, they play a video speech of him it has been the same speech every single admissions event. So if a student came for an open house and then for an accepted students day, they heard the exact same pre-recorded message from President Johnson. That is embarrassing to our university. I can tell you from my own personal experience, being at accepted students day and hearing President Johnson speak was something that was actually something inspirational to me coming here to the university. If I was to come to 2 different events as a incoming student and see the same message from a president who is not present on this university, that is an awful look to our university, to our incoming students, to our current students who rely on someone to be present. So I want to provide that clarity to just how awful the situation is.
I want to wrap this up. I want to end with something that I do want to throw out there though too. I think it's unacceptable too that he was not at our class of 28 SOAR. That absolutely unacceptable as well. That was something that I used to do as well. I think looking back at things that he used to do or previous presidents and stuff used to do, he hasn't been to at least the last 3 student senate transitions meeting, not just our last one. I think the last 5 actually. Unacceptable. And then on top of that, I've heard when it is Robin or him, sometimes those students get kicked out depending on the concerns and stuff that they bring up too. One of them was a former senator. Again, yet another instance of that just being unacceptable. I hope that there is change, especially going into next year. I think our community desperately needs something to rally behind. We don't have Bear anymore. We're going through tough times. Like, we're not in a crisis, but with layoffs, like all these things changing around us, we need some stability and we need our leader here. Where is he? When we had our conversation about the layoffs, I asked you all if some communication from the university would make things feel stable. And the people who were on Senate at that time said unequivocally, yes, every single hand came up. And that's when Greg started sending those emails. Well, we would feel a lot more stable if we actually saw our president. I'll end on that. Now we're going to move into the PA spring position discussion. So for those of you who are unaware, the PAs have been informed, at least those that are returning, that their position will no longer be a thing in the spring semester. And I really want to start by saying that as a member of this year's steering committee, we had conversations and, we tried to hear out the other side too about, the lack of some student engagement with their PAs in the spring. But to say that the PAs aren't doing enough and aren't making a difference to a large amount of students in the spring to bring them back, I think is honestly terrible. It's a terrible look. I think it goes back to what we're told during our first part of training, the starfish story. PAs aren't there to make a difference to every single little student. There's a story about a person who walks along a shoreline and throws starfish into the sea, saving those starfish. And someone goes up to them and basically insults them, saying, "Why are you doing that? You're not making a difference." And they're like, "I made a difference to that one." And today I want to share that my PA made a difference to me. I was one of those starfish. I wouldn't be here. I would not be here as student senate president if it was not for my PA, Megan Morales. I didn't join Senate until my spring semester. I was scared. And she gave me a lot of confidence and a pep talk and everything that I needed to just go out there and be myself and really join this community. So I'm disappointed. And again, we tried to hear out both sides. I came up with a proposal for like a 15-week plan of like structured things that we would talk to our advisees about. We said that we'd be willing to take a pay cut. And as of right now, the position's just cut in the spring. Steering is staying on. Some of them would be asked to stay on based on like the transfer students and people who might fail the new blue course. But I still think cutting them all, it's a slap in the face to students. And it also goes against what Greg shared in his message during that layoff conversation. He said that this is a seasonal layoff. Let's be blunt about it. This is a seasonal layoff. And that does directly affect students. And they said when they were making changes like this, they were working to make sure that student positions were not affected and student-facing positions were not affected. This hits both. This doesn't just hit one. This hits both. And again, I think that's unacceptable. These are students who are hired, that do work, that are experts on a lot of things that happen around this campus, or if they don't know something, they work their hardest to get that information to their advisees. And to cut them to lay off students seasonally is unacceptable. They get paid minimum wage. We get paid probably less than what we're actually worth to the university. And something else I want to point out, Student Life has lost positions over the past year. There's a hiring freeze for a lot of those. We don't have an assistant vice president or associate vice president of Student Life. Those are student-facing positions that were not hired. So now we're cutting another one. Vice President Cloutier.
I also want to talk about the fact that you had to come up with a 15-week plan in the first place. You talked about how PAs are underutilized, and my question is, whose fault is that? Because the PAs have the training, they've done so many hours of work to be prepared to go in and talk to their advisees, and it's just not on us to create our own job position and to structure our own responsibilities within that position. Like, that is on university, and if they choose to cut that position, then I really do think that that's really insulting to the students who worked really hard to get to that spot.
I'm gonna start with Chairperson Greenwood and then Secretary Emeritus Souza.
As far as I'm concerned, and I'm aware of, the school is still actively advertising that we are a full year position. We are not now a full year position, and we were not informed of this fact until we were sent. I personally am a returning PA. I worked as a peer advisor for my first year last year, and now I've returned, and I was not aware that this was going to be a fall position only until I got my re-acceptance letter. And it was highlighted in bold, and that was the only notice I received. Not when I reapplied, not when the application process went through, none of that. If we are going to be advertising that we are a full year position and a full access opportunity for incoming students, then we need to be put as a full year position. Because I know personally, if my kids reach out to me in the spring, I am not going to ignore them. Paid or not, I should be paid and I should be compensated for the work that I do. And we do more training than we are actually paid for. We are undervalued, and it is unfair of the university to absolutely cut this position in the spring when I am aware and I know that we constantly make a difference. And I am not going to ignore students when they have an issue. And the campus should not be cutting our position because they feel we are undervalued when I know we do work.
I'm going to say really quickly, refer to the last two discussions about making big decisions without student input, and then also the stipends for student leaders and what our generation has to deal with that the previous generations have not. I'm just going to leave it at that, but Secretary Emeritus Souza.
So I want to kind of combine something that President Kaufman already said with my own experiences. So me as well, my peer advisor my freshman year pretty much put me in the position I'm in today, and definitely changed so much for me to the point where I would still text her my sophomore year, asking questions and things sometimes. And when I came into W&E, we were assigned 3 advisors that were never supposed to change at all. Or at least the peer advisor was not supposed to change at all for freshman year. I had the same peer advisor, but we were also assigned a specific university advisor and our faculty advisor. If a student changes their major, their faculty advisor changes, and they drop the university advisor, being specifically assigned to you thing, I believe my sophomore year. So now your peer advisor is the only advisor that is a guaranteed person that will stay your peer advisor, your advisor the entire year. Because a lot of first year students do change their majors. So I think it's really important that this first year students have somebody that will remain someone they can go to and ask questions the entire year, regardless of what circumstances change. And I know in the fall, obviously we're in first year seminar with them, so that is our FaceTime, that's what we're being paid for, and that completely makes sense. But I can say confidently, Chairperson Greenwood, I probably meet with my advisors more in the spring than I do in the fall because we're not having that in-class FaceTime, because they're wanting to ask me questions about registration, about how to go about classes, about they saw their midterm grades and they were freaking out a little bit and had some questions. We do a lot of work in the spring, and I think Chairperson Greenwood said that is undervalued, and that we deserve to have that position title and that pay of that position, because some weeks we're probably even doing more work than what we're paid for already. So to take it away entirely, but probably still have these students texting us asking questions is kind of just
feels like a little bit of a slap in the face.
I'm gonna let Jaden speak, Jaden Montagna.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jaden Montagna. I am a steering committee member for the 2024-25 school year, and I'm also returning in that role for the 2025-26 school year. Through my experience as a first-year student, being very nervous on campus, the PA was the person I relied on the most, person who made me feel at home, made me feel comfortable, got me out of my shell to be the loud, outgoing person I am today. Due to that, I have been able to take on this role and build with the program. And from everything I've seen, both as a peer advisor, as a steering member, and just a combination of all of that, I think you can make an argument that the peer advising program is by far the most flexible program on campus. The things that they get asked to do on a daily basis, whether it's opening weekend, getting told to go do different things, on the fly, things change on a dime, and people have to are expected to just stop and move right away, no change, just right away on the fly, no notice whatsoever. The importance of the program is so significant. There's some, like President Kaufman said before, there's some students who just don't need your help, and you just have to accept that. However, in every group of students, there's always someone who's there looking for your help. It's, once again, you're not going to make an impact on everybody, but there's always someone there that's looking for your help, and that's what you're there for, and that's the satisfaction of being a peer advisor. If you take that away in the spring, that connection with your students, that peer transition from high school to college gets taken away, because if you give them one semester, you're giving them 15 weeks. You're giving them 15 weeks to build that connection and to get used to college life, and then you're pretty much just throwing them out into the fire, the final 15, when they come back for the spring. So building that connection, keeping it consistent throughout the whole year is important, because I know for me it was critically important. So I know that by getting rid of that, that's going to be a huge dent to a lot of the student body and a lot of the new students that come to campus every year.
Something really quickly that that made me think of is I'm worried about the workload that's going to shift over to the faculty, because they're also operating very leanly, just like every other part of this university. I heard that some of the adjuncts are not being recontracted for next year. So they're operating leanly as it is, and they have caseloads already that are too big for them to handle. A lot of them have to reject students and send them to people outside of their departments. So that's another concern to bring, and that's probably something Secretary Bronson should talk with either the provost or the faculty senate members about. So that's another factor to consider. Like those responsibilities will shift to the faculty, who I don't think should be answering some of the questions that we do answer, and won't be able to establish that connection. Chairperson Piacenza.
I'm just gonna say that like registration this year has been like a nightmare. This semester alone, I feel like registration has just been absolutely insane, just because there are very, very limited like sections of different classes and things. I know literally this morning, myself along with another peer advisor, we were in Starbucks, literally helping out like 5 different freshmen trying to get into courses this morning. They were really stressed out. They didn't think they were going to get the classes that they need. So luckily, myself along with the other peer advisor that were there, were able to help them out. But just like little things like that, like, yeah, we might not be in the classroom in the spring or anything like that, but I feel like we're still consistently making a difference. And I feel like that needs to be recognized.
Senator McKiernan.
I have a pretty good guess to this question, but I just want it to be clarified for like minutes' sake and other senators. Was there any plan of a replacement for the PA position, like some kind of events to help students?
The plan of replacement, I guess, that at least that we were told, and Jaden, you would be able to correct me if I'm wrong, or Amanda, you might also be able to jump in here, is the university believes that PAs in the spring specifically are duplicating efforts, and that our efforts would be better suited with student success as APMs or possibly admissions or a few other groups, peer tutors and stuff like that.
That is what was basically proposed, that the positions in the spring that would sort of take precedence, I guess, are like academic progress monitoring or tutors.
I just want to do, and the visitors can feel free to take part in this because all of you have had a PA. Raise your hand if you feel like, especially for those of you who have done APM or like peer tutor, or like, I'm assuming all of you generally know about at least the peer tutoring, maybe not so APM. Raise your hand if you feel like that there's a distinct difference between PAs and tutors. Unanimous. Okay, then I'm going to hand the floor to Senator Lemieux.
So I think it's kind of ridiculous that they're still having us move in 1 to 2 weeks early and having training every single day, basically all day. And they told us that we're only gonna get paid 8 hours a week like last year, even though we're doing all that work during opening weekend and prior. And they said that those hours we put in will be like compensated throughout the fall and spring term. And it's now, they haven't changed, they haven't shortened our, when we move in, it's still the exact same amount of time, same amount of training. And I've had numerous advisors tell me that I'm more helpful in the spring than I was in the fall due to housing and obviously registration again. And it's just very frustrating that we didn't have an input as PAs on this whole thing. I know the steering did, but us PAs were not informed of any of this, like Chairperson Greenwood pointed out, until we got our acceptance letters. And the fact that Amanda Charter had to tell us herself, and that a higher up, like Greg Matthews couldn't, or President Johnson couldn't come and tell us themselves, is, I think, embarrassing and not fair to Amanda. And it's just very disappointing as someone who works for the school that this is not only affecting us, but is affecting the biggest incoming class that we have.
Yeah. I'm trying my best to balance as many people as possible and not give as many repeats as possible, but I know a lot of visitors took time out, so I'm going to try my best to get as many visitors to speak as possible. So I'm going to start with Treasurer Emeritus Peralt.
I mean, I have a lot of things I want to say. I think first is I have served as a peer tutor before. And when I think about the work that I did, especially doing drop-in sessions with a variety of students or just doing one-on-one tutoring, like you're literally teaching them academic concepts. You don't do that as a PA. And vice versa, as a peer tutor, you aren't paid or required to teach these students about how to transition to college, how to reach out to resources. Yes, you can help them reach out to academic resources, but if they're suffering with anything else on campus, that is not in your purview as a peer tutor. And additionally, although I'm not currently involved with the peer advising program, I spent a significant amount of my time as a student here, both as a returning PA and then also as a member of the steering committee earlier this year. I wholeheartedly disagree with this decision, and I do find it insulting that current peer advisors weren't included on the conversation about this. I think it's a disrespect to all of them. I think it's a disrespect to steering, and I also think it's a disrespect to Amanda, who has put a lot of time and effort into this. And last thing I wanted to say, similar to what President Kaufman said, when I think about my peer advisor, I think that first semester is crucial in terms of finding your place here and just feeling comfortable. And I think the spring semester is really what accelerates your growth as a student. And I don't think that would be possible without your peer advisor. I didn't join Senate until I was in my spring semester because my first semester I was scared, quite honest. I needed time to get adjusted here, and my PA in the spring was the one who really pushed me forward to do that in the spring. And now I'm looking at two of my advisees who are sitting on this e-board, and I couldn't be prouder of that work. And I also don't think that that's something that they would have been able to do in their first semester here.
Yeah. I'm gonna hand the floor to you. Could you state your name for them?
I'm Maylee. I'm a freshman here. So one thing I wanted to say is that this spring semester, I didn't really, so my PA, I didn't really connect with them as much as I did with other PAs, but I did reach out to my current PA this semester because I'm taking spring or summer courses at a community college, and I couldn't go to the other people that I made connections with about it because either they're out of state or it's just not, I just didn't know if they had gone through the same courses as me. So I actually had to reach out to my current PA and ask them about it. And I wouldn't have been able to ask them in the fall. So I actually had to reach out in the spring about the summer courses, and I wouldn't know how to do it if it weren't for them because I asked my faculty advisor, she didn't know. And that's not somebody I can go to rather than a peer advisor. They took the courses at the same community college, the same courses that I'm taking, and I'm actually registered because of them. And I wouldn't have known about the summer courses if it weren't for them that told me about the summer courses that I should take outside of community college. And then another thing is today I registered for my courses. The worst thing ever. I was stressed out. I was up until 3 a.m. just so stressed out about it last night. But last night I realized one of my classes that I needed to take that semester had 3 seats left, and I'm freaking out. And that class was offered at 10 a.m. The next one was at 6 to 9 p.m. No one wants to take that, but I have to. And so I reached out to the person that I made a connection with about taking this class. But I'm a part of the dance team here. That's a whole night that I have to miss for dance team. So the person I reached out to is on the dance team, is my same major, knows what I'm going through. So
Who's that?
I don't know who that is. But I wouldn't have been able to ask that in the fall. These are all questions that I wouldn't have been able to ask even my faculty advisor or just any other person part of the college, because no one really knows that.
Before I give the floor to former Senator Bissonnette, I do want to say really quickly, we as steering, and you two can attest to this, and if Rach was here also, did ask Caitlin Bevins to be the one to break the news about this to the PAs, and she said that she would. Or Greg. I said one of those two should, and neither one of them did. So everyone that was in that room can attest to that. That was a commitment made. There are multiple people who can say that. So, yeah.
Really quick off of that just goes back to my other point about the peer-to-peer connection that students need on campus. As a first-year student, are you more willing to go to somebody who's doing the college undergrad at like the same time as you, who understands and can put themselves in your shoes? Or are you more willing to go to a faculty member who has 100 other things they have to worry about, and they probably don't show that they care about you as much as they should? There's a lot of faculty members out there who don't put in the effort to really show that they care, like we've discussed in other events that you guys have had, where the PAs being peer-to-peer connections is just another connection that students are more willing to go to compared to a faculty-student connection.
I'm going to keep the meeting going to 1:55, but senators, if you need to leave since we're not voting on anything, you are free to leave. Former Senator Bissonnette.
Thank you. So as President Kaufman did briefly mention, I am on the steering committee for this coming year. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And the cut to the PA program is like, for no other word, offensive. When we were told there was a chance that we would get cut to a fall-only position, myself, Jaden, Cam, and Rach all worked on a spring proposal for PA. But very specifically, not even the 15-week, how are we going to ensure we're connecting with our advisees? How do we show the administration that what we do matters? But I had specifically had to create an entire new pay structure at any hope that our job would continue. I'm a junior in mechanical engineering. What am I doing trying to fix this university's finances? Is that my job? I certainly didn't think so. The PA program, with my estimates, the school dishes out about $50,000 in the spring semester. The reason for the cut? Because our school needs to be more fiscally responsible. We need to be more comparable to state schools so that people want to go here. They're cutting not even an entire person's tuition. Of all the things that you can cut to try to make a four-year university comparable with a state school, with STIC, with Holyoke Community, anything like that, they choose the one program that is consistently and fully dedicated solely to the student experience. And for what? A couple pennies off of each individual's tuition? Is this really where the cut needs to be made?
Senator Thurston.
I'd also like to talk about, we mentioned the disconnect between administration and students. When that disconnect occurs, I know that I go to my PA, especially during the spring. If I didn't have my PA, I'm honestly not sure what I would do, probably just sit there and struggle. It's kind of frustrating that I'm paying tuition to go here and these resources are just being taken away from us.
Yeah. Senator Goddick, then Senator Farrell, then Secretary Emeritus, and then we'll end the meeting.
So just one thing I want to just say, like, again, rising senior, have been here for a long time with former Senator Bissonnette, with Jaden, with President Kaufman. I've seen these three work very hard as peer advisors. I've even had Autumn stay in my room over opening weekend just because of how many demanding hours it has been. This is unacceptable that it's getting cut for our peer advisors, especially just because of all the hard work and dedication they put towards our first year students. Coming from someone, again, who works in the admissions office and recruits these students to come here and talks so much about our peer advising program. The fact that they're doing this and just tying hands again is not appropriate, because peer advisors are a huge thing. When I was a first year student, my PA, I worked with him on the men's basketball team as a manager. He constantly checked in with me to see how I was doing, would talk to me about asking if I needed help with registration, different things like that. So cutting that out completely for students in the spring semester is unacceptable and not appropriate, especially just because first year students need more help than ever in the spring semester because they don't have a PA in their class at all in the spring semester and don't have a full-on way of being able to reach out to them other than texting them and emailing them like they do already as is. So cutting it out is not appropriate for this institution.
Senator Farrell.
One thing I'll talk about, as everyone here attested to, there is a clear difference between peer and peer advisors. One of the positions Cam touched on that will be taking on front is the APMs, the academic progress monitors. I will say I worked as an academic progress monitor, and the clearest difference is training. Peer advisors are trained to work with the students on a variety of issues at every single level, social, academic, whatever it may be. I had one training as an academic progress monitor and then was thrown into the fire. One thing I'll also say, they threw something brand new on our plate this year where we had to help with class registration. This was something I was able to do because my academic advisors are absolutely incompetent, and so I had to be my own academic advisor. But in the case of other APMs this semester, they had no idea how to help these students that they were trying to help build their schedules. This is something we are not trained to do, and I guarantee you to this point, they have not talked to other APMs about how they will have to pick up a brunt of the workload of peer advisors as the spring as they are currently planning to do. In which case, we will not be properly prepared to help these students the way peer advisors are. And if we are expected to do that, then again, we'd be compensated. Again, that is a huge issue because they would have cut the program in the first place if it wasn't. Or we need at least proper training on this. We can't be expected to take up the workload of a trained group of fantastic individuals on a whim. And so this is something the university needs to clearly state to these workers.
Yes. Former Secretary.
I've also been an APM before, and so that's just something I'm really looking forward to talking about because they're so polar opposite. Like I can't even get into everything that differentiates the two positions. As a peer advisor, you're trained in mental health first aid. You learn how to handle any type of crisis situation like that. As an APM, I had a 30-minute meeting with them bi-weekly where they'd be like, yeah, I'm passing all my classes and lying to my face. My advisees, like in the peer advising program, like I have had to respond to like mental health crisis situations and I was trained to do so. I have had to deal with like a variety of different, like either like them just being stressed about something or the like any type of conduct thing. Like I've had to deal with a lot of different things that APMs don't know how to handle and shouldn't have to because you literally never see them when you're an APM. You see them bi-weekly for 30 minutes and talk about what their grades are and then like what exams do you have coming up. Okay, just make sure you study. Okay. And then you do some study techniques from worksheets that they put in a drive, and then you send them on their way. And peer advising is so much more personal than that. APM is very, like you do build somewhat of a connection, obviously, just because you meet this person, but there's so much less of a connection that it's almost like insulting to say they're similar.
Sadly, we are over time, but if anyone would like something added to the minutes, feel free to email it to Secretary Kilday, and that's set of minutes will be sent to Caitlin and Greg personally by me. At this time, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes.
I